Hi, I'm Patrick Jagir with Cosmic Alchemist Astrology, and welcome to this video. Thanks for tuning in. So in this one I want to just kind of weigh in on a current event, topic that's been in the news, kind of give my 2 cents and give the astrological perspective on it, why it's happening and what it means. So, and thanks to everybody who's been watching the videos, commenting on the videos, sharing, liking. All that stuff is very helpful. It's very encouraging, and it helps the channel do a lot better. So I appreciate it. And if you've not subscribed, then I ask you to please consider. So let's get into the topic at hand here. So the topic that's been in the news that I'm going to talk about is how DHS, Department of Homeland Security here in America, has been, since about mid-October, they have been basically running a biological attack simulation. So what they've been doing is they've been basically pumping releasing a gas in the middle of New York City. So it's mostly in the subway tunnels, subway terminals, down underground in the, in the HVAC system and the ventilation system. But they're doing it in some open air locations where a lot of people congregate. So I think it was Times Square and I think Union Station, a few different places up in the open air. But yeah, it's 120 different locations around New York. And they're saying it's a safe gas, it's a non-toxic gas, there's nothing harmful in it. But the interesting thing is that it has these, let me get the term right here. They're called oligos. So an oligo it's basically one strand of DNA or RNA. So it's not, the double-stranded helix, it's just one half of that. And these oligos are made within laboratories. They're basically made to order, for people to do lab work with them, used in experiments. So in this non-toxic gas that's being released in New York City, you have pieces of DNA and RNA. Pretty weird. And things like this have happened in the past. So, one thing like this that happened was back in the 50s in San Francisco. Let me find the information here. Yeah, it was in 1950. There was a microbe called Serratia that was released in San Francisco. And it was probably in different places in the country too, but it was used by the government to assess the vulnerability of different regions to biological attacks. And the program was called Operation Sea Spray. And yeah, it went on for 6 days, run by the Navy, and actually put some people into the hospital. So, your tax dollars at work for you. And so here we go again in New York City with what's being called a non-toxic gas, but it has these oligos, these pieces of DNA and RNA in it. So really weird. And this is the kind of thing that we've been desensitized to, especially during the Cold War with all the brainwashing that went on from the end of World War II and onward. Boredom was one of the greatest tools, and still is one of the greatest tools of the ruling elite. So we've been conditioned for just everything in our world to be very boredom, very boring, very matter of fact, and just mundane. Oh, it's got a complicated but mundane explanation. Don't bother with it. It's over your head. You don't have the right degree to understand. So, and that's what's going on with this. Nobody really seems to care, but why is genetic material being pumped into the air to be breathed by New York City's 6 million daily commuters. Noodle on that for a minute. You're not going to get any explanations, so you're going to have to come up with something on your own. But what's interesting about this is they're running this exercise, they're running this drill. Since September 11th, 2001, every terrorist attack has been conducted when there was a drill going on. The drills create confusion, and it also kind of, I don't know, it kind of preps people so they don't freak out. It's a little bit of predictive programming. So this happened on 9/11. There was an air defense exercise where they're actually training the scenario of shooting down hijacked airliners, run by Dick Cheney out of NORAD, who has no experience in the Air Force or with air defense, had none at that time. And then what was it? I think it was the 7/7 bombings in London, in the subway. I think that was in 2005. The London Metropolitan Police were running drills that day, where the scenario was terrorists planting bombs in the subway. And then the other big one was the Boston Marathon. So that day in Boston, during that Boston Marathon bombing, whatever you believe about that, there was a Boston police were screaming, "It's just a drill, it's just a drill," that they were doing a drill for terrorist bombings in the crowd at the Boston Marathon. Wow, what a coincidence. And then too, you had mercenaries there from a security company called The Craft, and they've got this, kind of funky, catchy Punisher logo. So, yeah, every time one of these scenarios gets drilled, things tend to happen. So, that's why I've implied in the title of this video, is this the potential next, attack or disaster? If this happens, I don't think it's going to be hung around the neck of a patsy terrorist group. I think it's probably just going to be, possibly used to make a case for more lockdowns, more needles in every arm, more masks, more small business closures to help big business get even bigger. I think it's going to be an attempt, if it happens, it would be an attempt to fuel the virus narrative, because the COVID virus narrative is falling on its face. People really, they're not getting all scared about it like the powers that be want them to. They're ready to go back to their lives, get their freedom back, all that good stuff. So if this happens, I don't think it's going to be necessarily blamed on terrorists. It could be, because you got Democratic-controlled Congress, Democratic-controlled White House. They could always hang it around the neck of some right-wing, fringe element type thing. Could still be Islamic terrorists, because if you hang it around their necks, you don't divide the country. And very slim chance it would be, the narrative would be that it was, some Chinese group. Because we're China's bitch right now. So I don't think they want that kind of press out there. They want all the sympathy they can get out of the population, because big business wants to turn America into China. So yeah, I don't see that happening. That could really backfire. But at the very least, it'll be fodder to in an attempt to pump up to try to resurrect the COVID narrative. and what a deadly, black plague it is. Yeah, so, look for this. Now, what I'm seeing here, kind of my astrological kind of case that I'm building here, what we had, what really set the stage for this was October 9th, which I've mentioned in other videos. On October 9th, you had two really big conjunctions going on. So in Virgo, which is health, medicine, cures, illnesses, healthcare, doctors, nurses, all that kind of stuff. And then for America, the 10th house of government and also public health, you had a conjunction of Sun, Mars, and Mercury retrograde, all at 22 degrees in Hasta. So Hasta symbol is the fist, which you can kind of look at as, it's a really rigid and even like a forced form of unity. So, Sun, royalty, authority, Mars, aggression, the will to build things, even can deal with medicine, like surgeries in particular. And then Mercury retrograde saying, look twice, don't take this narrative coming out of public health at face value. So what you had was Sun and Mars and Virgo were trying to push this narrative, push people to get their shots so the drug dealers can make money. But the Mercury retrograde was saying, well, not so fast, don't take the narrative at face value. And then in Scorpio, you had the other big conjunction. You had K2, what we call the south node of the moon in Vedic astrology. You had Venus and Moon, all conjunct in Scorpio in Anuradha. So Scorpio for the world is sudden ups and downs, sudden gains and losses, it's transformation, sudden illness, sudden death. So these two conjunctions, it was basically speaking to a tough cold and flu season. I think it has to do with, definitely has to do with people losing relationships, friendships over, where they spots and the virus and the whole bit and the response to it. But then whenever you get Sun and Mars conjunct in Virgo, it means a tough cold and flu season. Just having them in the same sign but not conjunct indicates tough cold and flu season, but having them right at the same degree, that's a big deal. So we got a tough cold and flu season coming up. And then, with everything going on in Scorpio, it's basically people could find themselves sick or hospitalized by not thinking clearly. And, as I mentioned in that video, I said it had something to do with like a new STD emerging, which I think is going to be a side effect of the shots, because again, the Nobel laureate Luc Montagnier, the man who sequenced HIV for the first time, found bits of HIV in the virus. So there's a weird thing going on here with that. But yeah, K2, Venus, Moon, all conjunct in Anuradha, the hand of friendship, which, especially when it comes to heterosex, it's like vagina's kind of like a hand with the dexterity and the muscularity of it and all that. So that's where I got the whole idea of an STD. But with that aside, these conjunctions on October 9th meant, really tough cold and flu season that could bring about transformation through illness, through hospitalization, possibly through death, by people not being mindful. So, yeah, that sets the stage for this whole thing. Now, what you have to get into to find the trigger is you've got to look at the eclipse. So there's going to be a solar eclipse November 4th. Let me just pull my app up here. Solar eclipse December 4th, 2021 in Scorpio. Where is it? Oh yeah, there it is. So yeah, solar eclipse at 18 degrees. So yeah, not at those conjunction degrees, you know, from October where Moon, Venus, and Ketu were, thank God, but within 10 degrees of it. So yeah, this solar eclipse in Scorpio, this is going to be what you're going to have here. You're going to have Sun and Moon at 18 degrees. You're going to have Mercury at 21 degrees, so it's in the conjunction. And this is going to be a Ketu eclipse. So Rahu and Ketu, the nodes of the Moon, which are the shadows that cause the eclipses, they give the eclipses different personalities. Rahu is the master of illusions. Rahu casts illusions, and this is the North Node I'm talking about when I say Rahu. Rahu casts illusions. Rahu deals with deception. Ketu is just the opposite. Ketu is just all about no bullshit. It wants to just wipe away illusions, tear down illusions. It just wants to get to the real deal. It has no time for bullshit, and it wants freedom, it wants liberation, it wants spirituality, it wants the truth. So Ketu eclipses reveal things, whereas Rahu eclipses cast illusions. So, you know, and not the most direct of eclipses. Ketu will be at 7 degrees, whereas Sun and Moon will be at 18. But it'll be less than a degree away from where it was when it conjuncted Venus and Moon back in October. So, yeah. So that kind of, I don't know, that's going to give it some power. You know, and Ketu again, Ketu is a co-ruler of Scorpio. Mars is the ruler, and then Pluto and Ketu are kind of the co-pilots of Scorpio. So yeah, but like Ketu will be an Anuradha still. So Anuradha, the hand of friendship. I think this will definitely catalyze this whole STD thing that I've been seeing, that I've been talking about this cold and flu season. But if New York happens to have some sort of what the news will call a bio attack, or if there's a sudden outbreak of some crazy new variant in New York City right around December 4th or shortly thereafter, then remember how Department of Homeland Security was pumping this non-toxic gas full of these oligos, this genetic material, into the air so that 6 million daily commuters could breathe it. And God knows where else they're doing this around the country or the world. But so you bear this in mind if this happens. Now, the Scorpio is the 12th house for America. So the 12th house deals with places that are like isolated, out of sight, foreign places. It deals with secrets. It's a house of secrets, so it can deal with conspiracies, plots, things of that nature. So a subway system is very 12th house because it's below the surface, it's out of the way, you know, it's deep underground. Pisces, its original home is in the 12th house, which is the deep ocean, so you know, the subway system can be built very deep underground. It's an isolated place. 12th house deals with places that are behind the scenes. So subway terminals and tunnels are very much behind the scenes. And yeah. So again, it's kind of all written here. So if the news says there's been a bio attack or some crazy outbreak in New York City in December, then after this eclipse, or you know, at least near it, then think about this. But since Ketu's involved, I don't think that if it happens that the whole public is going to buy it, because again, Ketu is a revealer. And since And, you know, eclipses are, it's the darkening of the sun, but what happens is it's like shutting a spotlight off that's been blinding you, so it allows you to see things clearly when the light was blinding you previously. So yeah, and then having the Mercury conjunct the eclipse, I think that's a big deal, because it's basically going to kind of dump a revelation like right into our collective intellect. So it's like K2 kind of saying, oh, here you go, Mercury, run with this. You know, I'm going to bring this eclipse to bring about this revelation or this disclosure, and oh, you're right here, here you go. You know, go ahead and run with that. And by December 4th, Jupiter will have newly come home to Aquarius. And when Jupiter comes back to Aquarius, so Jupiter retrograded into Capricorn, the sign of government, it's coming back to Aquarius. Jupiter is the bestower of gifts and blessings and good fortune. And Aquarius is a sign of humanity, so when Jupiter comes back, it's going to gift humanity with truth, and I think it's going to be truth about government and about figures of authority. So, if this thing happens, if, you know, the news media tries to say that, you know, there was an outbreak or of some crazy variant or some bio attack in New York City, remember back to this drill that the Department of Homeland Security has been running, because I think it's possible that they're basically getting the stuff into people's bodies so that when something else gets released, or at least when people have it saturated enough in their bodies, then they might come down sick with something. Or it's like in the Batman movie where the Joker, through, you know, health and beauty products, built up different levels of chemicals in people's bodies so that when he released the gas on the crowds, then they would react to it and they would die from it. Talking about the 1990 Michael Keaton Batman. So a lot of different possibilities here, but yeah, keep your eyes on it. And I think I'm going to I'll call it a day here. So thanks for tuning in. If you've not had a Vedic astrology reading with me, I highly recommend it. It's a great navigation tool. It's an empowerment tool. I don't do astrology to entertain. I do it to help people empower themselves. So it shows you hidden talents, hidden gifts, helps you know kind of what you really want out of life, you know, what the themes of your ideal life's work. And I also build you a custom meditation to use to basically get in tune with your unconscious mind, which is your built-in manifester. I also do rune readings, and I have some videos on sale for download. Qigong videos. Qigong is an excellent, amazing mind-body practice that has been life-changing for me. It optimizes physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual health. So, thanks for tuning in, and you'll be seeing more of me. Have a good one.